Hello and welcome to the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you subscribe to your favorite podcast. I am Hunter, aka Tech Guy, and with me today is no one. That's right, we are by ourselves. We aren't even in the Salty Sarge Lounge. We are in our own speakeasy, which is to be named, but it is a nice place to hang out as well. A little lonely, but that's all right. First off, I want to apologize for missing last week's episode. We don't tend to do that often, but our schedules kind of conflicted, and it was really unavoidable. So unfortunately, that was going to happen again this week, but I decided, hey, why not just jump on here? We can get an episode done. No problem. Second of all, since we did miss last week's episode, I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all our service members who have served and are serving currently. As you all know, the Salty Sarge is a veteran as well, and we would like to thank him and thank you all who have served very, very much. We greatly appreciate that. But without further ado, I got on the socials and asked for some questions, hoping to get some Q&As done today, and we got a few, so we can just jump right into it. So our first question of the day is, hey, Tech Guy, in the pod we hear a lot about the Salty Sarge's life and work, but we don't hear much about yours. What is your background, and why did you decide to start this podcast with Salty? Ooh, that's a lot of question. What is my background? Well, my background's pretty straightforward. I mean, I would consider myself pretty technologically advanced when it comes to understanding how technology works and stuff like that. So, I mean, I grew up wanting to be an engineer, and I was pretty dead set on that for quite a while up until high school, and I was enrolled in pre-engineering classes, and I was bored out of my mind. I did not anticipate how much sitting and staring at a computer it would take. And I learned pretty quickly that I was far more hands-on than what was required. So instead, I decided to jump over into electronics, but on aircraft. So right now, I work a job at an airport, and I do the modifications and the maintenance for electronic components, all your systems. I'm the one who's running engines and testing all the radars and stuff. And it's a pretty sweet gig, but it doesn't allow for much creativity. And that's something that up until my mid-20s, I kind of lacked, and I kind of wanted to have a chance to get better at that and practice it and put it to use in a way that would make sense. So I started a business, a drone photography business, actually. Designed my own logo, built up my website, built up everything. And from there, I started doing that. It was going good. I mean, I'd get jobs here and there, but it was really kind of inconsistent. I mean, you could go a month without working. You could go and have 3 jobs in a single day. But I don't know. And then the restrictions on it kind of got to be a little too much. And that's where I kind of realized, hey, this is something I can do, but it's probably not going to be sustainable. So I then, about that time, my now fiance had decided that she was going to start a podcast with her friends, a paranormal podcast. And they were running this thing off the webcam on their laptop with no microphone, just straight laptop mic. It was a mess. And I said, well, let me see what I can do here. So I went out, I bought the equipment. I didn't buy anything expensive. I just bought your kind of necessary stuff. And sure enough, I started producing that podcast for them. And that went on for a while, and we had fun with it, but then it kind of naturally ran its course, and then eventually that podcast ended. So I'm sitting around with no podcast to do and a whole bunch of podcast equipment. And of course, I'm friends with the Salty Sarge himself. And he has all these stories, and he's telling me these stories, and I won't say I pushed him to do it, but I would say it was encouraged by other people for me to encourage him to start this podcast and get his stories out, because he does have some incredible stories. And as you've heard, they are hilarious, and it really provides perspective that you don't otherwise get from a police officer. So that was kind of why we started. The next question is, how did you and Salty Sarge meet? We met because we are neighbors. Yeah, he moved in a little while ago. And it was just kind of happenstance that his wife and my fiance were friends. They had been friends since middle school. They lost contact for a very long time. And then when they moved in, we're like, oh, hey, we know them. And we went over there and hung out with them, became pretty fast friends, and everything just kind of spawned from there. I mean, yeah, we love to hang out with them, even when we're not doing the podcast or anything like that. It's a fun time to be there, and he's an awesome dude. So I'm glad to be friends with him. The next question is, what is your favorite story from the podcast so far, and why is it the back door? Yeah, the back door is a good one. I think that's definitely the one I've gotten the most feedback from, and just like people coming up to me and being like, "Hey, what's that?" And like, and they're trying to get me to say the back door, and I'm like, I appreciate that, because you know that they're like taking in the podcast and listening to it, and that's an amazing feeling to have something that you created put out there, and people are taking in strides and really enjoying it. So yeah, the back door is definitely one of them. There are, I mean, I've enjoyed every episode we've done so far. I do like the one with the raccoon. When we did the promo for the podcast, I had to make sure that was included, because that kind of, with the back door, encapsulates what our podcast is really about. I mean, we take what could be a very tense, very like troubling job, and we try to lighten the mood. We don't want to set this idea that police work has to be this grizzled old vet that just hates life and is just a mean, grumpy SOB. That's not what police work has to be. For some people, it's what they make it, and for some people, that's how they perceive it. But that's not the case. I mean, you can go, you can have fun, you can talk to these people and get them to see the humor in things and say, hey, maybe this stupid situation that I've called the police about isn't really like worth it. Maybe, hey, let's get some humor in here, and I'll see that maybe I don't hate this person as much as I thought I did. Maybe I'm just hating the situation that I'm in, or maybe I'm just in a bad mood. It's hard to tell someone to just sit there and be a robot and not be able to have like human feelings in their job. And that's what I feel like today's day and age requires police officers, and that shouldn't be the case. And I think Salty would agree with me on that one. The next question is, other than Salty Sarge, do you have any connection to other police officers? Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of them. I mean, you take your pick. I know sheriffs, chiefs of police, just highway patrolmen. You want to talk about my dad? He was a deputy for a county, worked Federal Reserve. He's done just about everything that you can imagine, paramedic, medical examiner. He's done it all, and one day I'm going to have to try to get him on this podcast, and he can share some of those stories, because there are plenty of them, and they are hilarious. All right, the next question is the Salty Sarge podcast ever going to have video? Yes, or we will have video eventually. We're kind of working some things out. I know he wants to build his podcast studio at the lounge, and we are definitely going to have that. And then once we get some few logistical things figured out, we'll have video. We'll do some live streams. We'll definitely expand on that. Don't you worry about that. The next question is, have you ever considered being a police officer? No, I couldn't do it. For just a little bit more backstory, this is my first year of trying to officiate. So I'm officiating basketball, and I've been a basketball coordinator for about 2 years before I had to hang that up. And it was messy dealing with those people. Not all of them, of course. There's a lot of great people, but you have the few outliers of parents that kind of take it too seriously and push things too far. And sometimes you have to call the police. And I know getting to that point that I've had to call the cops on a parent was so like stressful and mind numbing, and it sucked. I can't imagine being the person who just their job is to constantly having to go to those calls, having to inject themselves in those situations and already be the enemy of whoever this person is. So refereeing, I feel, is like kind of the same way, but it's to a far lesser degree. And I've already seen some adversity to it. So no, I don't think I could ever go and be a cop. Now I can do it right along. We could do that. I don't mind hanging out, but yeah, being a cop, no, that's just not for me. Sorry. And the next question is, hi, I just wanted to say that I love the podcast and you and Salty works well together. It's perfect for my Thursday morning commute. Not a question. I'm just kidding. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree. I think we work together pretty well. I think he does most of the work for me. I like to think of it as like setting the direction and then just letting him go. So yeah, it's kind of a supporting role, but I don't mind playing it. And of course, I like to listen to people. So it's definitely like not out of my wheelhouse. But yeah, I appreciate the comment, and I'm sure he appreciates it as well. And yeah, I mean, I'll listen to the podcast on my way to work sometimes. It's a good time filler. And last question, what is your favorite way to spend a weekend? Well, that's probably going to be with my family. I mean, friends and family, really. I do enjoy hanging out with the Salty Sarge. We will usually pick a night during the weekend to go and hang out with them, and I mean, we'll do stuff, watch movies. We've been to hockey games. We've escaped at midnight and went to a grave site or a cemetery to go investigate it because, of course, my fiance and his wife are like the paranormal stuff, so we had to do that. That was cold. But then, of course, usually going to find a way to spend some time with my family. I have an amazing family, and I'm glad that I can still talk to them and be with them. And even though I may not call them as much as I need to, I always want to try to find time for them. And then, of course, hang out with my kids, hang out with my fiance. I got 2 wonderful little kids. They're growing before my very eyes, and I just want to be there with them and watch them grow and teach them and kind of learn from them as well. And then I, of course, have a wonderful fiance, and I appreciate everything she's done, and she's been more than supportive when it comes to this, just like B, the Sarge's wife. And they're both pretty supportive when it comes to doing this, and they're always listening and always cheering us on, really. And we could not be more thankful for that. But there you go. That has been a quick Q&A. It's a little shorter than your normal episode, but hey, I'm here by myself and I got a busy schedule too, so we're going to have to cut it a little short. But once again, thank you all for submitting questions or just listening. It's every person that clicks on these and listens through. You are amazing, and I appreciate all the support, and I know the Salty does as well. But we want to thank you so much for that, and it's been an amazing journey, and I hope to continue. Hopefully, we can get some more episodes out. I know we are trying to get one scheduled with a very special guest. I'm going to call him Salty Sarge Senior. Yeah, that's his dad. So hopefully we'll have that out soon. But we shall see because schedules are tight right now, and that goes for both of us. So we'll get you one though. We'll make sure that you have something. We're not going to be missing out on a month of podcast. Don't worry. And surprise, we have a very special guest, a little one that is. What is your name?
Grace.
Grace. And how old is Grace?
5.
Awesome. Yeah, this is Grace, little Grace. She wanted to come say hi on the pod. And Grace, I just have one more question. Don't lick the mic. That's not what we do here. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? She shrugged, ladies and gentlemen. She shrugged. All right, can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Hi. And then bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, this has been the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook or anywhere else you subscribe to your favorite podcast. I have been Hunter, and I thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Why are you so loud?